What advice would you give contending teams right now? Say you are 3-0. What moves should they be making?
It's still a long season, right? It feels shorter when you're sitting there at 0 and 3. And I just talked about, it's 14 games like that. The clock's ticking for you. As a contender though, it's actually the opposite. It's like I still got, I got 11 more weeks I got to make it through before we even get to the playoffs. A lot of bad shit can still happen to this team. Like a lot of it. And one thing I see people do right now that I can't stand doing in Dynasty, and I refuse to. I used to do it in my early days, and it's always coming back to bite me in the ass. Is they're like, man, I'm 3-0. This team, I'm like one piece away from just being a juggernaut. I'm going to take all this draft capital that I have, or I'm going to take this young, exciting rookie that's up and coming, and I'm going to trade him for what I think's a better vet, or I'm going to trade him for, this draft capital for a vet. And then you sit there by week 5, and that vet, pulled a hamstring. He's not going to play for the next 3, 4 weeks. You're like, I just spent all this shit on this dude, and he ain't even playing. Damn, this helped me done. And then you see your competitors who can hold their water a little bit better. If your league's got a trade deadline, they're sitting there in week 12, week 13, and they actually have made it almost to the finish line. And they're going out and they're getting somebody like, Keenan Allen last year, who's out there just flat dominated when the dude's playing, like a difference maker. You're like, damn, I wish I would have had the draft capital to go out and acquire Keenan Allen so I could start him in the playoffs. But, I couldn't hold my water in week 3. I got too excited, got over my skis. So it's at least one thing, one piece of advice for contenders. You got here for a reason. Write it out, kind of see how it goes. You're going to have a better idea of what you're actually going to need as you get closer to the playoffs. And don't don't get too excited, man. I like to frequent some certain clubs, and if you go into those clubs and you spend all your money right away, the end of the night usually sucks. Like it usually sucks. Be patient. Hold your water just a little bit.
Absolutely. To expand on that a little bit more, when it's time to make those moves, I don't think you should be over. We get tied to, trade calculators with, these values that we take as gospel, and, someone's got to win the trade and lose the trade. I'm not afraid of overpaying for some of these assets that can help win a championship. Think about any NFL trade, right? The Rams making a deal, kind of selling their soul, to the cap devil, finding a way to get Stafford in there. They won a Super Bowl. It's worth it. If you win the big one, it's worth it. And you're generally, if you're a competing team, you're not going to overextend yourself too much and completely ruin your chances at a true dynasty. If you're, trading a second for Devin Singletary, a late second for Devin Singletary or something like that. If Motor Singletary's running at the rate that he was running at Houston at the end of the year, and RB20 right now, if he's still RB20 late in the season, like I'm not afraid to put up a second for Devin Singletary or things of that nature. So when it is time, I think the patience is the key point here, and not spending your bag too early, because when it's time to get those guys, you want to have bountiful, because there's going to be multiple competitors in your league. They're all going to be hunting up essentially the same teams. You got your contenders, you got your pretenders, you got your rebuilders. Generally, it's the rebuilders that get hawked by everyone else. So it is a race to get some of these guys. So if you have patience, you accrue value, you can play that game. And I also, would recommend buying, getting some late start rookies. So like Drake May is a guy who, he's a little bit more expensive. He's more of a long-term asset. Jalen Polk, I think could rise throughout the year. So keep your eye on, things like route participation and start tracking these things now, because there are going to be some of these younger guys that start to rise throughout the year, and being able to identify those can be league changing.
Yeah, and another player you mentioned in a video we did was Ricky Pearsall. If he, who knows where he would be right now if he hadn't had a gunshot wound before the season started. Juwan Jennings, like, would it have been a battle between those two? And then Juwan Jennings goes off for 3 touchdowns. You never know. You never know in fantasy football. They did draft the guy in the first round. But yeah, I liked a lot of what you guys said, and I think what I've learned over the years is that patience factor. It's like not rushing out because I'm 3-0 to go get the top producer and just, here you go, here's my first round pick for next year. Because if you've built your team the right way, at least in my opinion, and this is not going to help like in the moment, but like in the startup, that's why we preach focus on value. Like focus on just accruing value. Get some rookie picks in the startup, and because it's so much easier to take a team that is full of rookies, younger players, ascending assets, and turn that into a contender versus, oh shit, I got a team full of dusty veterans, and these players aren't worth hardly anything after a year or two, and I'm still clinging on to maybe being a contender, maybe not, but it's hard to blow it up now. So anyway, if you build your team the right way, hopefully this is not a huge concern for you, because hopefully you have a lot of depth and a lot of like rookies that have ascended over through the years, however long your dynasty team has lasted. But yeah, I patience, I know it's a cliche, but I think it's true in dynasty, is a virtue. Like, just chill, bro. Like, there's going to be, you have all the way to week, whatever, 11, 12, whatever your trade deadline is, to make some moves. Now, there are some trades that come in your inbox, you're like, holy shit, I think I have to accept that. And we were just talking about trades that are automatic declines. Like, you get them all. But taking your time, finding the right deal that's a good fit for hopefully both you and the other team, like that's just being patient is the most important thing for sure.